Good night, everyone, and welcome back. Good night. Is it already nighttime? I never know. Welcome back to my channel, y'all. And thank you guys so much for joining me. I am your host. And if you are here and you're interested in this topic, then you might as well like and subscribe because I do this kind of thing almost every day. Okay, maybe every other day. But you're not here for introductions. You are here for the topic. And the topic tonight is interracial relations. Everything you got to know. And of course, I'm going to try to break this down into 4 points: understanding, sameness, fetishizing, and being a connoisseur. Some of us are really about that swirler life. You know who you are. And I would have to say, because a lot of people have asked me this publicly and privately, both black and white or other. Oh man, I'm going to be in trouble for that. But a lot of people from a lot of different ethnic, sociocultural, religious backgrounds have asked me what my preferences are. What can I say? I like what I like. I don't really have a type. I ain't got no type. But I would have to say that understanding differences are, you know what, there are a couple of things that I would have to say that I do like. I like tall. I like lips. I like a strong jawline. I like broad shoulders. Doesn't everyone like, have you ever heard any woman say, "Oh, I like a nice soft jawline with some shrumpy shoulders and a guy that's really, really short." Like that's what really gets me going. So yeah, I guess my type is very atypical masculine man. Don't judge me. That's what I like. And I think that everyone can afford to have their preferences if they are able to produce a relationship out of those preferences. And so that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit in another video, not in this video. This video is just to help you understand some of the unique things that I've learned about dating outside my race. And I say race in quotation marks because if you haven't been on my channel and you haven't listened to some of the conversations that I've had with my mother about Garifuna and what it means to be Garifuna, then please go pause this video and go check those out so that you can acquaint yourself with the multifaceted definition of what it means to be Garifuna. Now back to this topic. Understanding differences in a relationship that is interracial is super important. And the reason why I use the word understanding instead of identifying is because identification seems to come across as I'm looking for things that are different between us. That is not a good place to start your relationship because it is obviously setting you more and more apart rather than focusing on the things that you have in common, which is my second point, which is sameness. Understanding differences is important for people who have culturally different ways of talking about situations, dealing with difficulties and conflict. Even things like how you talk about money or traveling, retirement, family. That is a huge thing. And it can come down to the simplest, minute detail of how much money is appropriate for my wife to be spending on her hair and weave and makeup. Like, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but that's like a thing. And so discussing differences might be serious or just every day-to-day routine thing might need to be taken into consideration that, okay, this is how you do things. I might need to remember that the next time we go on vacation and I don't pack any sunscreen and you are frying like a tomato. That happened. Okay, so understanding differences is important so that we know what it is that we bring to the table. What are some of the things that need to be taken into consideration? And that is more pronounced. Now, I will not say stereotypically that people who are of the same race or same ethnic background or same culture might always see the same every single thing. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you don't see the same or see eye to eye on everything because you know, strengths and weaknesses, varieties, the spice of life, baby. You don't want to have too many things in common and you don't want to have too many things different. But differences are sometimes essential for balance. Yes? So, Sameness is not necessarily what you think it is. All right. So sameness, like I was mentioning before, can also mean that you and the person gel and um mesh on a certain level that is complementary and attractive to each other. Like, I really, really like to travel. And that is something that I have more in common with my husband than I would have had with any other person. I also love to discuss socio-economic and political issues with my partner. I like my partner stimulate my mind as well as other aspects of our relationship together. So that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. That I have that I have that stimulation in my relationship to be able to have these kinds of pseudo intellectual conversations. That's just something that I'm into, and my husband's also into that as well. Things that you have in common might help you to override some of the obvious physical differences that you two may have with each other. And race matters when it comes to that, but not in a way that you think. And I know that maybe a lot of people who are listening to this might think, okay, this should have gone under differences, but sameness is that it sameness helps you to understand that okay, your race doesn't matter to me the way it would matter if we were both black or both white. That matters less in terms of we connect on a completely different level as opposed to a superficial level that you're black or you're white. Which then leads me to my second point. You also don't want to go out on the other end of the spectrum. And I know people, black and white, who experience this in their relationship. That is, hey man, no judgment. You do you. If that's what you like, that's your preference. That's okay. But if you're looking for a more deeper, meaningful relationship, and you find yourself to be in a relationship with a person that only likes you because of some kind of aesthetic that you satisfy, you're treading on borderline fetishizing territory there. And I've been in those situations. And if you are being seen as an object of, oh, you have this kind of lips or that kind of butt, and outside of that, you need to be acting this way, which is the black way, and you don't fit into that category, you can end up being very disappointed as well as the person you're dating. And hey, like I said, no judgment. You do you do what you like. But I do like to be in a relationship with somebody who, or when I was dating, I would prefer someone who would just see me as more than just black. And the defining thing of what it means to be black is such a multifaceted, multidimensional, intercultural concept that I don't want to make too political or too difficult for people to understand, but also don't want to limit it to these are the things that are considered black and only these things. So when I met my husband, we didn't even have to have that conversation because he was just such a type of person that wanted to get to know who I was at many levels. He just happened to be somebody that I connected with that was white, who was a white guy that I also was finding very attractive, but not necessarily that, okay, this was a requirement in order for me to, this was an aesthetically required thing that he needed to fulfill in order for me to find him attractive, and vice versa. Who am I kidding? um, no, my husband was a little bit more on the fetishizing end. He likes what he likes, but he is not completely opposed to dating other kinds of exotic looking women. I'm trying to say this very politically correctly, but he's not a fetishizing person. I later on discovered, which made him even more attractive. But if you have a hard line, like they've got to be this particular aesthetic. Hey man, just do you. If you're on the other end of receiving end of that, and you're like, okay, yeah, I only date redheads, and you're a redhead and this person is telling you that, then this might be a hard, this might be a red flag. It might be a red flag. But it might not be a red flag. Just take it into consideration that it is something that needs to be taken into consideration because it might be very limiting in how that person sees you, and the person might see you as nothing else but that thing. Being a connoisseur, which is the next thing that is borderline fetishizing. I like the term being a connoisseur because it really lends itself to understanding things about the diversity within cultures. Like, I discovered that there is such a thing as a North German as opposed to a Southern German, and there are different types of German that people speak, and only people in a particular part of Germany wear lederhose, and only people in a particular Germany part of Germany eat certain types of foods, and there's a difference between an Eastern German and there you can tell the difference between someone from Eastern Europe and someone from Scandinavia. Like before I dated my husband, I could only tell the difference between a European and an American. That was as far as my knowledge went. But paying more and closer attention to the different facets of culture was a completely different learning experience for me once I immersed myself into the culture. And it helped me to have an appreciation for him even more. And I think that that can be reversed or and vice versa in terms of how we see people from Black African cultures all over the world, or Latin cultures all over the world, or Asian cultures all over the world. The more exposed you are, the more you're able to appreciate some of the finer, greater details about what makes us who we are in our individuality. And it brings us even closer to the people around us because you have more things to find out about how we are similar in the way we are. Now, I know this is kind of a feel goody type of video, and I'm not going to say that it's all feel goody. I did touch on some of the more negative aspects, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit more personal and a little less political so that people don't feel like I'm trying to offend them. I'm probably going to offend someone anyways because that's just how people on the internet are. But if you have any questions, comments, or agreements to this video, please leave your comments down below. Please just be respectful about it. And if you can, stay safe and be free.